Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining today. My name is Becky, and I am the Prevention Supervisor for Blair County Drug and Alcohol. I myself am also a graduate of Penn State Altoona. I played volleyball there for 4 years and was an education major. My job now is to educate and raise awareness in the prevention field. So working with individuals in preventing alcohol and drug misuse before it becomes a problem within their life. Today, we are speaking mainly on alcohol because it is the kickoff to Alcohol Awareness Week. Alcohol Awareness Week is held every year, October 22nd through the 28th. It's a national event which aims to bring attention to issues posed by excessive drinking among college students. So let's get started. We're just going to be going through this PowerPoint together. And if you have any questions, feel free to chat them. And when I get to them, I will respond. So to start, I like to cover the basics. Here you see a chart for a standard drink. It's important to know what a standard drink is because it can help us prevent injuries and essentially death. It's also important to know how much alcohol is in your drink. It always surprises me how many people still don't understand what a standard drink is. There's no arguing the facts. And like you see here, if you are drinking a beer that's over 5% alcohol, then you are consuming more than one standard drink. So like craft beers. And also if you're drinking like man cans, you're going to be having more than one standard drink in that sitting. So those are all things to take into consideration when drinking. You can't just say to yourself, oh, I had one can, so that's one drink. If that were a standard 12-ounce can of like Bud Light, sure. But if that was a larger can or a heavier percentage of alcohol, then no, you had more than one. And that's where it gets tricky. And that's also where people get into trouble. I see it all the time, especially with things like Four Locos. And like I said before, craft beers, they hit you so much harder because people drink them like it's one standard drink. But in reality, you might have just had 2 cans and that were more like 4 or 5 standard drinks. So that's why you can get so messed up from them. This picture of the red Solo, I just like because it's so true, especially in college. It relates so well. It could be beer, but usually jungle juice, which who knows how much alcohol is in that. And if you just fill it up and assume that 1 cup was 1 drink, that's what usually happens. But if that, again, like if that jungle juice has grain alcohol, which is usually the case because it's cheap and does the trick, well, you probably just had 5 standard drinks in that 1 cup. Next, I always like to add a little topic about energy drinks because it's so socially acceptable to do this, but it's so dangerous and many people aren't aware of that. Some bars don't even allow energy drinks, and props to them because your energy drink is a stimulant and alcohol, we know, is a depressant. So what happens when you mix the two is nothing good. Your heart pretty much starts fighting itself because it isn't sure if it should like be speeding up or slowing down. So that right there can put you at risk for heart attack, stroke, etc. And then on the other side, if you think about what alcohol does to you, like when you have too much, usually you go to sleep, right? But when you have too much, but say you're mixing that with energy drinks, you have the alcohol telling you that you should be passed out by now and done drinking, and you have the energy drink keeping you wide awake and partying hard. So this is where we commonly see individuals develop alcohol poisoning and, in all seriousness, rape, because you are completely blacked out and you have no idea what you're doing, but your body is still going and you wake up having no recollection of this. So back to the standard drink and why it is important. Your body needs 1 hour to process 1 standard drink, no matter who you are. And I'll get a little bit more into that in a few slides. But for example, if you finish your cup of jungle juice that had roughly 4 standard drinks in it, it will take you about 4 hours to be completely sober from that 1 drink. This next slide here says that you may have a high tolerance, but your BAC will still be affected. And this is usually where we have like the big guys arguing that they can drink 10 drinks and not be drunk. But I promise you, like in the example, if you would get breathalyzed, you would be over the legal limit, no matter who you are. If you had 10 drinks, you're going to blow hot. Tolerance and blood alcohol concentration are two totally different things. Just because you feel fine and can act fine does not mean that you are fine. Next, we get into problem drinking. So this is the term used to describe the misuse and eventually abuse of alcohol. It's a pattern of drinking that results in harm to one's health, interpersonal relationships, and/or ability to work. These are both according to the CDC below, and I always have individuals shocked at what binge drinking is defined as. And many will actually consume this, but deny that it's binge drinking. So from the CDC, it is 5 or more drinks in 2 hours for men and 4 or more drinks in 2 hours for women. The number changes a little bit because mainly of genetic makeup and what the natural male and female body can take differs. But heavy drinking we see is more than 8 or more drinks per week for women and 15 or more drinks per week for men. Again, this is from the CDC. And bottom line, individuals may drink this much and say they don't have a problem. And maybe they don't, but I do promise you that it is affecting your health if you fall into one of these categories. All right, so the body and alcohol acts on the central nervous system, and this can cause any one of these effects, if not all of them together. So difficulty with your decision making, your slurred speech, blurry vision, poor memory, slowed motor skills, slowed reaction time, slowed or shallow breathing, and then vomiting. So some possible consequences, you have your short-term effects, which are injuries, accidents, violence, risky behaviors, alcohol poisoning, and there are more. And I always like to say too, these short-term effects can easily turn into long-term effects. Like an injury, sure, it could be something simple like you fall from a party down a step or something, maybe you break your leg, but it could also be a serious injury that could affect you for your lifetime. Same with accidents, that it could be something small, or it could be maybe a serious car accident, which could potentially be death. Same with violence. Maybe it's just a small fight, but maybe it's something that puts you in jail and that turns into a long-term effect. Risky behaviors, again, can be a short-term effect, or it could be something serious that affects you for your life. And again, alcohol poisoning is mainly a short-term effect, but however, you can get brain damage from alcohol poisoning as well. And we will talk a little bit more about alcohol poisonings and things to look out for in the next few slides. So long-term effects, you can develop alcoholism, cancers come from drinking, social problems, mental health problems, high blood pressure, heart disease, stroke, liver disease, and digestive problems can all come from drinking. You are more at risk for stroke by 14% if you drink, fatal hypertensive disease by 24%, heart failure by 9%, and a fatal aortic aneurysm by 15%. Drinking any kind of alcohol can contribute, again, like we said on the last slide, cancer for long term. And scientific studies are now coming out to prove that it's directly linked to breast cancer, mouth cancer, throat cancer, your voice box, if you develop cancer there, your esophagus, your colon and rectum, and your liver cancers can all come from drinking. So like I said, we're going to talk about alcohol poisoning a little bit more. Alcohol poisoning happens if you've consumed a toxic amount of alcohol, okay? Over a short period of time, usually this happens. Your blood alcohol level is so high that it's considered poisonous. So even when someone stops drinking, it's important to know that their BAC can still keep rising for about up to an hour. Symptoms can include, for alcohol poisoning, confusion, hypothermia, pale skin, unresponsive but conscious, passed out, so vice versa, it could be either or. You could develop abnormal breathing, very slow breathing is usually what you're gonna experience, and then again, vomiting. In severe cases of alcohol poisoning, and this happens, your breathing can completely stop, a heart attack can occur, people can choke on their own vomit, especially if they pass out. And this happens a lot with college students because they don't know they have alcohol poisoning. So they just go home and pass out, and then they might not wake up because in their sleep, they choked on their own vomit. Vomit could be inhaled into the lungs, which causes severe issues. Brain damage can occur due to the severe dehydration, and then you can develop seizures because of your blood glucose levels dropping. And then again, you can go into coma, and death is the final severe case. Alcohol poisoning is a significant medical condition. It requires immediate treatment if suspected. So just sleeping it off is not okay. And I cannot stress that enough. It's not okay to let a friend go to sleep if you seriously think they have alcohol poisoning. So this is just kind of talking more about the causes. So when somebody consumes an alcoholic drink, their liver has to filter that out, right? So we absorb alcohol much more quickly than food. Alcohol gets to our bloodstream faster. However, your liver can only process that amount of alcohol. And like I said before, it's one standard drink every hour. That's how much your liver can process. So if a person drinks 2 in 1 hour, there will be an extra drink's worth of alcohol in the bloodstream. Let me see here. So the faster someone drinks, the higher the BAC becomes. Rapid drinking can bring your blood alcohol levels so high that mental and physical functions are negatively affected. If your blood alcohol level is high enough, physical functions such as breathing and the gag reflex can be affected. According to the CDC, there are 2,200 alcohol poisoning deaths in the United States each year, an average of 6 alcohol poisoning deaths every day. And I'll tell you that probably 75% of those happen with college students. Those at highest risk of suffering from alcohol poisoning are college students, chronic alcoholics, and then those taking medications, which can clash with alcohol. So what to do if you suspect that someone has alcohol poisoning? Try to keep them awake, keep them in a sitting position. If they are lying down though, and you cannot get them up, make sure their head is turned to the side. Give them water if they can take it. Do not ever give them coffee or caffeine because it's going to worsen their dehydration. Don't lie them on their back. Do not give them more alcohol, obviously, and don't try to make them walk. Okay, so these are important things for college students to know. Some yearly statistics. So consequences of drinking by college students, and I won't read all these, but here you go. Here are some statistics of deaths, assaults, sexual assaults, and then the percentage of engaging in binge drinking. All right, this is some information, and I threw a little bit of marijuana. I'll sprinkle it in a little bit throughout this PowerPoint. But this kind of just talks on the effects of your education. So this is a chart, and this was from a study of 3,500 students attending 10 different colleges in one state. It wasn't Pennsylvania, but this gives us a nice overview of what we're seeing, and it's pretty common. So if you binge drank in the past month, you were 28% more likely to skip class. If you used marijuana during the past month, you were 31% more likely to skip class in the past month. So eventually, if you continue to use or binge drink, it does start to affect so many different parts of your life, but especially in college, it's going to affect your grades probably, your attendance. And then here, for each 5% increase in past month prevalence of use, so that means like if we're seeing a 5% increase of people saying they're using, you are 12% less likely to meet math standards, 12% less likely to meet writing standards, and you're 9% less likely to meet reading standards. So again, it is affecting your education. Some fun facts here. Excessive alcohol use can shorten your life by up to 30 years. That is a long time. Think about that. Think of what you would miss in 30 years of your life. Studies show that people who start drinking at a younger age are 5 times more likely to develop alcoholism or use other drugs. And again, so that's pretty common. We see, you know, if you have an issue, it usually developed at a young age, and that's with many drugs, not just alcohol. Withdrawal from alcohol can kill you. It's one of the only drugs that can. Most other drugs, if you go through detox or go into rehab, it's going to feel like you're dying going through withdrawal, but it won't actually kill you. But withdrawal from alcohol can kill you because it's like your body has been working on poison and it's been pumping through. And when you completely cut that off cold turkey, your body goes into shock and it will kill you. So some not so fun facts: at least 1/2 of all violent crimes involve alcohol consumption by the perpetrator, the victim, or both. Let me move this down. Okay. At least 50% of student sexual assaults involve alcohol. Approximately 90% of rapes perpetrated by an acquaintance of the victim involve alcohol. About 43% of sexual assault events involve alcohol use by the victim. 69% involve alcohol use by the perpetrator. So it's a sad truth that alcohol is usually involved with rape. So next we dive into drinking and driving. Some facts: driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs is illegal. Driving under the age of 21 is illegal, or drinking under the age of 21 is illegal. Consequences of driving under the influence can include car crashes, injury, death, jail time, fines, highway safety classes, license suspension, and potential problems with jobs. So we know that employers do not like anyone to really have a record because it's tough to find a great job anymore. And so when you put your resume in with that company, or if they do a background check or something on you, they're gonna want the best of the best. So if you have something on your record, especially like a DUI or even an underage, that's gonna put you at the bottom of their pile. And again, like so many fines, it's not worth it, especially if you get a DUI. It is so expensive. It's embarrassing. Jail time, not fun. Then the courts and the classes that you have to take as well. I promise you that it is not enjoyable and it's not worth it, especially losing your license. So how would you feel if you're, I don't know, 18 or 25 and you have to ask your mom or someone for a ride? Not great. And drinking and driving kills. We know this, right? In 2018, this is the most up-to-date data we have right now because it takes a long time to get this through all of their resources. But in 2018, there were 331 alcohol-related fatalities in Pennsylvania. So 331 people died from drunk drivers or drunk driving. 9,811 were just crashes. So that's almost 10,000 crashes just because people were driving and drinking. 29% of those fatalities were in the age of 16 to 20. So that's scary because that's not even the legal age to drink. So almost 30% of our deaths from driving and drinking are people who aren't even legal to drink. So, and then next we have 43% of driver fatalities were in the 21 to 25 age group. So both of these kind of fall in with college aged. So together we have well over 50% of our crashes and our deaths from drunk driving from your age group. 75% of drinking drivers and traffic crashers were male, and 67% of alcohol-related crashes happened in dark hours or weekends. And that should not be a surprise because that's when most people have parties or are drinking. So DUI under the age of 21. Pennsylvania has the zero tolerance law, right? And so they have serious consequences for those who are under 21 convicted with a DUI. So 12 to 18-month license suspension, 48 hours to 6 months in jail, and fines can range from $500 to $5,000 depending on what your blood alcohol level was at the time of the crash or arrest. And again, so zero tolerance means that you could blow 0.03 and you could get a DUI for it. We usually do give the 0.02 allowance just because it could be mouthwash or something like that. However, if they really wanted to, you could still get a DUI on 0.02. And if you wanted to fight that, you would have to go get blood and prove that it wasn't alcohol that was the 0.02. Approximately 3 out of 10 Americans will be involved in an alcohol-related crash at some time in their lives. So at first it doesn't seem like a lot, but think about that. Like, it's scary how close you can be to being involved in an alcohol-related crash, and you don't know if that's going to be one that results in death or not. Every 48 minutes, someone in this country dies because of impaired driving. This is just a nice little addition to the PowerPoint. So it kind of shows you, okay, you're going to take this road, you're going to take the exit to drinking and driving. Here's what you're going to be faced with. You can face jail and prison time, loss of your driving privileges, those are classes, the AHSS fines, and then you're going to face higher insurance for the rest of your life, probably. So some legality to DUIs. Any person who can cause serious bodily injury when a DUI is the case of injury, they're going to face up to 10 years in jail and $25,000 in fines, and there is no mandatory minimum for that. So if there's a homicide by DUI, any person who unintentionally causes death of another when the cause of death is DUI, the maximum penalty is 10 years in jail and $25,000 fines. There is a mandatory minimum sentence of 3 years in jail for each death served consecutively. So that means no matter what, if there is a death in a car crash, and it is the result of a DUI, you're going to face at minimum 3 years of jail time. Okay, so marijuana and driving, again, I told you I'd sprinkle a little bit here and there because a lot of people right now aren't aware that you can get a DUI from smoking and driving. It's a DUI is driving under the influence. So it doesn't have to be the influence of alcohol. It can be the influence of any drug. So law enforcement are now trained to detect marijuana just as they would alcohol, and not just marijuana, other drugs as well. They're called a drug recognition expert. They go to like a week-long training and they learn all about like what your eyes do, what your body does if you are under like a certain substance. So even if you have a medical marijuana card, it is still illegal to drive under the influence of marijuana. So it's the same as like, yes, it's legal to drink in Pennsylvania, or it's legal to drink if you're 21, but it's not legal to drink and drive. Same with your card. It's legal if you have your card, but it's not legal to drive. So marijuana and driving impairs your judgment, it impairs your coordination, it slows your reaction time, it shortens drivers' attention spans, you can have difficulty performing complex tasks, and impairment outlasts the high. So that means that even if you don't feel high anymore, your reactions and things like your judgment are still going to be affected, which will affect your driving. And it's the same thing, like just because your high is gone does not mean that you wouldn't still blow hot. Same with alcohol. Like just because you don't feel drunk anymore does not mean that your blood alcohol level is not, not over 0.08. So bottom line, our world portrays the positive use of alcohol and drugs, right? Me telling you not to do it is ineffective. But please just be responsible, okay? That's all I want is for people to make good choices. I'm not here to preach to you and tell you not to do something, but I'm here to educate you and give you the facts and hope that you can make the right decision. If you are drinking or under the influence of any drug, do not drive. And please be aware of your surroundings and how much you are consuming and your friends. Take care of people. And last, I leave you with, it's not a problem until it is a problem, right? So if you know someone who is struggling with abuse, don't be afraid to reach out for help. You have Blair County Drug and Alcohol is very close to you, and they're really good at getting people into the right help. So thank you. I think that's all I have for today. And let me know if anyone has any questions. There's some resources.
Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. I do want to point out something that I thought was really interesting that you brought up, that I think like 72%, when I added it up very quickly, 72% of DUIs are under the age of 25. And something that I talk about quite frequently in my groups is that your brain is not fully developed until the age of 25. And the last part of your brain to develop is your prefrontal cortex, which makes all of your decisions for you. And that's also the first part of your brain that's affected by alcohol.
Affected by alcohol. Yep.
So like you're already handicapped by your age, and then you're handicapped by alcohol. And then you get behind the wheel because you think in that moment it's a good decision or a valid choice. So I think that's a pretty definitive statistic to put out there. Like, hey, you're more at risk because if you drink in excess, you're more likely to make a poor decision on top of already being predisposed to making a poor decision.
Yeah. Yep. And that's also why we see so many people, like the younger you are, the more at risk you are for addiction, because you're not fully developed. Whether or not you feel like an adult at 25 even, you're so much more at risk for your mind to be swayed, into addiction.
Is there anything else you wanted to add or anything you wanted to talk about before we end?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us for National Collegiate Alcohol Awareness Week, and we hope to have you back again soon, maybe to do other presentations, or and if students feel like they need to reach out to Blair Drug and Alcohol, thank you for putting your information up there on the screen, and we'll make sure that they reach out to you.
Yes, please do. I was going to say something else, but now I forgot. But if you get any questions, send them my way and I'll do my best to answer them. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Becky. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.